They lied to you by making you believe you have to spend a fortune to get a powerful phone that can run all games without any issues. In this video, I'm going to prove it to you. Next, you're going to discover 7 gaming phones that won't cost you an arm and a leg, and I bet you a watermelon that you've never even heard of many of them before. Let's dive right in with one that we're actually giving away right now. Check the pinned comment for the link. I'm talking, of course, about the Poco X7 Pro, an old friend on the channel that we've had since launch and talked about tons of times. The price just doesn't make sense compared to the specs it offers. It almost feels like Xiaomi loses money instead of making it every time they sell one. It sits in the $300 range, give or take a bit depending on your country, where you buy it, and of course the variant. The 8GB RAM plus 256GB storage version is the most affordable one and still extremely powerful. In fact, its performance crushes 99% of competitors in the same price range. Just to give you an idea, a Samsung Galaxy A56, which actually costs more, only hits around 840,000 points on AnTuTu. For anyone who still doesn't know by now, that's a benchmark test that shows how capable the device really is, while this Poco easily surpasses 1.5 million points. It's a difference that simply doesn't make sense when you consider they're in the same price bracket. But it gets even more ridiculous when you realize the Poco is actually cheaper. The one responsible for all this is its MediaTek Dimensity 8400 processor, an 8-core chip built on a 4nm process with a max clock speed of 3.25 GHz. It pairs perfectly with LPDDR5X RAM and UFS 4.0 storage, which can go up to 12 GB for RAM and 512 GB, or half a terabyte, for internal storage. In simple terms, all this means the X7 Pro can handle any app or game you throw at it. Nothing is too much for it. It can even run Grand Theft Auto 5 smoothly, as I already showed in that video. I'll link it in a card up top right. That said, maybe you're looking for something truly gamer-oriented. 1.5 million AnTuTu points is great, but how does over 3.1 million sound? That's thanks to an insanely powerful Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Extreme Edition, built on 3nm with a monstrous 4.47 GHz clock speed, plus up to 24 GB of RAM and 1 TB, that's 1024 GB of ultra-fast UFS 4.1 storage. We're talking about a complete monster from every angle, the Red Magic 10S Pro. It could probably run a parallel universe in 4K at 140 frames per second and still have power to spare. Of course, all that muscle would be useless if the battery died in 5 minutes like it does on many expensive phones, which is why the manufacturer equipped it with a massive 7050 mAh battery, plus up to 80 West fast charging and bypass charging technology, so you can game while plugged in without risking long-term damage to the battery. The screen supports a max refresh rate of up to 144 Hz, along with a touch sampling rate of up to 960 Hz, while packing a resolution of 1216 by 2688 pixels and covering over 90% of the front surface, meaning almost no bezels, borders, or notches. What it does have is an imposing aesthetic that looks more like a gaming PC with a touchscreen. That said, it's not exactly cheap, and it's not the easiest phone to find in every market either. On average it goes for around $650, which might seem high, but honestly not that much when you consider the specs and the fact that it outright humiliates devices that cost twice as much. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Either way, the real big issue with Red Magic is its reputation. Not because it's bad, but because practically no one knows about it. That's just how things work in this world. You can sell an incredible product, but if people don't trust the brand behind it, you're going to have problems. That's exactly what was happening years ago with Xiaomi. Nobody knew them, not even in their own house. But now, after several years on the market where many consider they've done things right, a lot of people prefer devices like the 14T or 14T Pro. We're talking about phones that have already proven to be well-built and made to last, with quality materials and finishes, while keeping alive the brand's essence, its soul, that unbeatable value-for-money ratio. You know, offering a ton without needing to cost a fortune. Prices ranging from around $360 to $700 or so, and AnTuTu scores close to 2 million, up to 512 or 1024 GB of internal storage, 12 GB of RAM, and even IP68 certification that makes them resistant to dust and water to the point of being submersible. Something that would have been unthinkable for this brand years ago. Both the Xiaomi 14T and 14T Pro can handle any app or game without breaking a sweat, no matter how demanding. The MediaTek processor series has proven to deliver solid performance. No more of that old MediaTek stigma I used to warn you about. In fact, I recently made a video explaining how they've been brutally crushing Qualcomm. I'll link it in a card up top right so you can check it out. In essence, it's about elevating the mid-range to another level. Tons of power and low price above all else. Of course, plenty of people still distrust MediaTek to this day, almost as much as politicians. Well, maybe not quite that much. Let's be clear, even though they've improved a lot from what they used to be, for many the true seal of reliability in mobile processors still comes from Qualcomm and its Snapdragon lineup. That's where some lesser-known but equally great phones come in, like the ROG GT7 Pro, a complete beast with up to 16 GB of RAM, the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor capable of over 2.73 million points on AnTuTu, all powered by a massive 6,500 mAh battery with up to 120W fast charging. It goes for around $600. This isn't the kind of phone you'll see everyone carrying on the street. In fact, it's extremely unlikely you'll run into one unless you live in China. And like I said at the beginning of the video, that's the point. Here we're talking about some phones that aren't the most popular, but they still deliver incredible features without needing to be the most expensive. Another one is the Nubia Z70 Ultra. It usually goes for around $560 with up to 16 GB of RAM, 1024 GB of internal storage, and a Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, hardware you'd normally find on phones costing over $1,500. So yeah, the value for money is insane. It's not hard to see why. It costs under $600 and packs features that even some phones twice the price don't have, especially when we're talking raw power. With that much muscle, every game should run at 60 or even 120 frames per second without breaking a sweat. But of course it doesn't always work that way, which is why it doesn't quite fit the classic gamer phone aesthetic. If that's what you're after, then you need to go straight for devices like the ASUS ROG Phone 9 Pro. We're talking major leagues here. 24 GB of RAM and 1 TB of storage is no joke, especially when paired with a Snapdragon 8 Elite that pushes over 3 million points on AnTuTu. Okay, without a doubt, the most mind-blowing thing about this phone is its insane refresh rate of up to 165 Hz, which in theory lets you see over 160 frames per second. In plain terms, for the folks back home, this thing delivers smoothness like nothing you've ever seen on a phone before. And while it's incredible, there are two big things working against it. First, it's crazy expensive, over $1,000, and second, it's harder to find than a decent partner these days. That's why my final recommendation, if you want the absolute best gaming phone to buy in 2025 without overspending, is hands down the Poco X7. Its price is only slightly higher than the X7 Pros, but it's a much better built device that hits around 2 million points on AnTuTu and comes with a massive 6,000 mAh battery. The Snapdragon 8's Gen 4 processor can handle anything without issues, though more than a few people out there say the difference from the Poco X7 Pro isn't that huge.